night, St. Lucia. Good night. Welcome to the South End. Some of us quick to say never when we feel we cannot take the burn. Some of us will fight forever till we reach the point of no return. Like David the boy with his stone and sling, kill Goliath with one swing, and the people made him king. Other enemies, probabilities on the field, made him captain of the West Indies. Climb to the highest tower, never give up, fight forever. Face all the battles that life may bring, never say never. No matter what load or pressure, fight till the 11th hour. Eat it until the fat lady sing. Never say never, never say bye-bye. No matter how tough it seems, never say, and never say bye, hold tight to your dreams. Don't ever give in, though it seems like you may never win. Just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. He never failed me yet. Just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. Some of us we too negative when the task at hand seems difficult. There's always an alternative. Try something different like Disney World. Never thought I'd see a black man ascend to be president in the white man continent. Or without degree, he rise up to be surprisingly the prime minister of the country. Climb to the highest tower, never give up, fight forever. Face all the battles that life may bring, never say never. No matter what load or pressure, fight till the 11th hour. Eat it until the fat lady sing. Never say never, never say bye-bye. No matter how tough it seems, never say, and never say bye. Hold tight to your dreams. Don't ever give in, no. Though it seems like you may never win, just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. In any contest, just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. Some people when they get knocked down, stay down on the ground and soon give in. Some others resilient and strong, get up light again until they win. Mandela 4 years locked up in a cage, triumphed over deep bondage, president in his old age. All of us Spencer, when they raise the bar up higher, jump over till she rings superstar. Climb to the highest tower, never give up, fight forever. Face all the battles that life may bring, never say never. No matter what load or pressure, fight till the 11th hour. Eat it until the fat lady sing. Never say never, never say bye-bye. No matter how tough it seems, never say, and never say die. Hold tight to your dreams. Don't ever give in, though it seems like you may never win. Just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. In peace for unrest, just give it your best, Jah go do the rest. Thank you. When you are my to admit, women have some pretty big shoes to fit. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? No glass slipper for me, I guess. I'll be a woman of success. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? I don't want no magic slipper. I want to be a Calypso winner. Boy, like so. Ba-na-na-na, ba-ba-da-da-da. Listen, it's not just fitting on a glass slipper. You have to be kind like Mother Teresa. Be phenomenal like Maya Angelou. Show bravery and courage like Indira Gandhi too. Some very big shoes in which to walk. To be a leader like Heraldine Rock. A legal stalwart like Justice Susie. Or our dear Pearlette Louise. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? No glass slipper for me, I guess. I'll be a woman of success. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? I don't want no magic slipper. I want to be a Calypso winner. Boy, you like it? Boy. So many big shoes for us to fill today. To be talented like Miss Barbara Cade. Be a cultural queen like the Dame. And all of our outstanding successful women. We have some big shoes to fit into if we hope to make a difference to being Calypso monarch like Lily. Is one shoe I'm sure that will fit me well. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? No glass slipper for me, I guess. I'll be a woman of success. What size are you? Can you fit these shoes? I don't want no magic slipper. I want to be a Calypso winner. Whoa, Baba-doy. Thank you. Yes, Whoa. Oh yes, we're knocking it harder. I saw it last. We're knocking it real harder.
Hey, we keeping the party going on. Let me tell you, he used to be one of the sexiest female Calypsonians. Are you understand what I'm saying here, so? I will say it again. He used to be one of the sexiest female Calypsonians. Fire in the place right now because the hospital burning. Make some noise on the man. Twop shots.
Good night, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. Go back, look on, fire. Bueno, mama, dipe, dipe. Woo! 95. Fire, water. Hospital burning, I see all them mission running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them mission running. Fire, someone in the east, fire, someone in the west, fire. running enough. Fire, hospital burning. I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning. I can see all them shun running. Fire, those who cannot walk. Man, if you see them running. Fire, those who cannot talk. Man, I can hear them screaming. Hell, those who come for bread rest. Give up immediately. Hospital burning. I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning. I can see all them shun running. Why, fire. Yo, 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 fire, fire. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Why, water, water. Why, everybody bring water, water. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Somebody put the fire, fire. When I hanging. Fire. Oh, God. Hospital burning. Bring water to the fire. 95, February. A fire, a water, Lucia. Hospital burning, I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them shun running. Fire, before you enter, you have a bill to pay. Fire, when you see you living, fire, now you start paying bills. Fire, hospital burning, I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them shun running. Fire, man, when you are Lucian, before you enter, you must pay. Fire, and when them are for it, fire, when them living them pay. Fire, and when them are pay, fire, come check someone and give it. Fire, hospital burning, I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them shun running. Fire, why, oh, yo, 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 fire, fire, oh, yo, 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 why, water, water, why, somebody put the fire, oh, yo, 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 let us all on the fire, fire. The fire, the water, Lucian, all the fire. The fire, water, hospital burning, I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them shun running. Fire, those who have life water. Fire, looking for place to shelter. Fire, the doctors them running. Fire, the patient them chasing. Fire, fire engine run short. Fire, there's not to help us. Fire, hospital burning, I see all them shun running. Fire, hospital burning, I can see all them shun. Fire, why, fire, oh, yo, 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 fire, fire, oh, yo, 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 why, water, water, why, everybody bring water, water, oh, yo, 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 let us all on the fire, fire.
Good day and welcome everyone. Just announcing on behalf of the production team that we'll be starting very shortly. So we're asking everyone, including experienced generous and benevolent sponsors, to take the seat, please.
Fire!
We're asking the combination of First National Bank and Luslek to take the seat, please.
Money, woi. Donania. Edi mago ifwai. Money, woi. E donania. Edi mago ifwai. Mama ibani. Sese ibani. Tatat libani. Makume ibani. Bel me ibani. Tatat ibani. Josuna bani. Jodin bani. Leon Guinea. Dima boy. I love you. Woi.
Welcome again. And we ask that we all stand respectfully for the national anthem.
One verse, one chorus is what the people want out here.
I went on my neighbor. Come door. She thought I sitting on the floor. With the biggest dolly I ever see. A boy wine. Money, woi. Sawi bani. Kana we bani.
seated.
I don't know what's going on. You're excellent.
Welcome once again. And we advise you via the producers that you need not be so stiff and formal. We are in fact celebrating Calypso the art form. And I'm sure our guest of honor, Pancras McGriffin Theodore, better known as Blakes, and more aptly for this occasion, the mighty Terra, would not have been unaccustomed to the earlier venues when things were very rough as far as infrastructure and the technical aspect of production, and Piccadilly, where it all started. And so, except always missing Blakes, with that technical hitch, there would have been instant booing and whistling from the crowd. So, Ramona, and so please take the cue to keep us in check. Welcome once again at an occasion when I was asked to chair and host. I could not have resisted for a number of reasons, for the love of the art form, of culture generally, and indeed Calypso, but also because of familial links with Blakes Theodore and my family, who were very central to this whole renaissance of the carnival arts, as I call it, in St. Lucia. We hear often of the much storied and celebrated Arts Guild, who were the catalysts for the revival and promotion of theater arts in St. Lucia on stage. Derek Walcott and the whole host, recently deceased Arthur Jacobs, Roddy Walcott, and the rest. But Pancras, Blakes, the mighty Terra was very much part of a boost and a genesis, a start of a big interest and elevation of the carnival arts. Calypso, yes, we're celebrating today, and Blakes is quite a legend, rightly so being celebrated. But Steel Band and the associated arts were very much part of that whole movement. The names like Arthur Jacob, as I mentioned, Fanwa himself, and a number of others who played their part. Sikra Gibson, who really unfortunately couldn't be here today, really belongs in such a forum, who was as grand and stood as tall as Pancras Theodore in promoting the Calypso arts. Not so much Calypso, but the associated carnival mass-playing steel band. And we cannot speak of Blakes and his involvement without the music, the musical bands from Vieux Fort where he came, but also of the role of steel band, the Turks steel band, being central to the formation of people like Blakes, the mighty Paley, Sikra, and a number of others. So the nexus and the thread is constant and very obvious as we celebrate the growth of that art form here. We want to make the point too that, very interestingly, Blakes Theodore is at home now in Cass Street, and indeed the new north, the new urban center extending to the north, is Blakes, mighty Terra. But having come from Vieux Fort, is a very interesting fact in tracing the history of Calypso in St. Lucia, that Vieux Fort birthed, though the central, the genesis, the nerve center was Castries, that so many monarchs have come from Vieux Fort. Blakes himself, the mighty Terra, the mighty Pele, the mighty Zandoli, the mighty Prince, and indeed Prophet Haggai, all came from Vieux Fort and then migrated. It's a fact that really leads for Ember Charles a separate course of study and research. Vieux Fort has produced so much. And so today we hope to trace and celebrate Blakes Theodore, but also to trace the evolution of Calypso in all its different forms, the respect from the public, where it started, the venues, the approach to it, the talent, the musical accompaniment, and all aspects of this Calypso art form, and the growth that we're celebrating through the mighty Terra. At this point, tribute to Calypso on St. Lucia.
When I've been taught by the best, oh yes, it's the mighty Pele. Tell me, Johnny, I will give you the remedy. Believe in yourself, whether you're crippled or blind, and no mountain will be too high to climb. It's the mighty Pele, tell me, Johnny, originality is the key. Always be pleasant, always sing with a smile. Dress up nice, Johnny, step in style. Make sure that your diction clear, so the judges and audience could hear. do fiestion, and you bound to win the Calypso. Since I small, I love Calypso, all the great songs and all the history. So for more advice, I went and checked Ashanti. He said, Johnny, sing to please the people, and you cannot go wrong at all. Express yourself and be emotional.
Era, the idea, no doubt, of the producers, the concept to have done this tribute around Johnny and a contribution, her emergence in the Calypso art form. And so at this point, we would invite comments before we move on eras, how the art form has developed as far as the reception from the public, the approach to composition and performance, and all other aspects. Chalo is here, as is the custom introducing Calypso Monarchs. He's not quite here, so Chalo, in true Calypso spirit, has been asked to fill in. But we'd ask him first perhaps to reflect on his own impressions of the evolution of the art form, how it has...
It on. I'm looking for the chord. I realize it's the number of young persons, particularly from the school age. Now, of course, for the schools, what we have realized, in fact, Johnny herself was a teacher. But eventually, with the schools getting involved and so on, what we have realized is that it had the number of sponsors who have come on board in promoting the art form. Of course, the work of persons like Blake has been in the spotlight for a long time. It's true that they have never had a formal tent until, of course, guys like Wilkie and our deceased friend, Vivian, began to structure it in a way that we now have more of our national artists and Blakes and so on. So yes, the evolution is there, because what we realize now, although the class structure has changed a bit, and we realize the rivalry between the tents and so on are involved at this point in time. So much so, I don't know if you remember Floopsy. Okay, at 14 years of age, there was a big uproar and so on. We had to change the rules and all those kind of things. So yes, a lot has happened, but all in...
The old Emerald, the sometimes horrible conditions at the town hall, competing, with trying to focus on the performance on stage while being distracted by the noises from the yard, but more importantly, from the middle class. With Blakes and Paley, maybe a few exceptions, the middle class came to champion and support their peers in Blakes and Paley, but often to ridiculously up until the early 80s, which we'll speak on a little later, when the persons like Ashanti, Invader, and so came to go overseas of Blakes and Paley, and so there was that void until the big revolution. There's some other people who could well placed to make a few comments. There's Blakes, the screeching and the MC and the feedback from the sound system in the old Emerald. Is that deliberate anger? Roger Joseph has followed Calypso very closely. Maybe he can share a few thoughts, his observations about the evolution of the Calypso art form. I know him to be an art from Roger. We'll pass him the mic. Or you could come join us, Roger. It's not alcohol here, it's just simulating. So. It's not alcohol.
Everybody. It means that this, taking this Calypso,
my period
of coverage in terms of the
understanding and appreciation of Calypso art form, certainly in solution, doesn't go back too far, perhaps 20 or 30 years thereabouts. And what I recall are the early days of the almost factionalized support of Pep on one hand and Invader on the other, or it was Splash on one hand and Invader on the other, because that's where a lot of the those guys would be the ones coming up towards the top as the competition went along. I remember the days of tents being held at Gaiety and Clark's, you know. And obviously beyond that, you know, the growth of the art form subsequently to the really huge, I would say, transformation of the Calypso finals in particular, which became almost, you know, the centerpiece of Carnival and everything else associated with it. And it was perhaps the most popular and biggest show in the Carnival series of Carnival events.
Right. Yeah.
Over time, we have seen perhaps a decline of that kind of support, where the crowds were a little smaller as the advent of better live coverage came along and so on. And more people follow the shows on television as opposed to coming to tents and then coming to the cultural center. So for me, it has really been an exercise in enjoying especially what is appealing to me was the creativity, the lyrics, the writing, and seeing not just the growth and evolution of individuals as they got better.
The art form generally.
But certainly the growth and the art form generally.
Thanks, Roger, for a spontaneous comment. Very important point you're making there about the fervor and the fierce rivalry, how it's so animated, the entire following of the art form. In fact, I remember Kendall Hippolyte and I speaking, him making the point that Calypso had progress. He think the composition had improved, but he didn't like the placid approach to the certainty. That is an important point you made, that though it might be seen more healthy to some people, some figure it's taken the sting out of and the flavor out of the real Calypso art form, the actual fierce rivalry. So thanks for that comment, Roger. We're moving on as with the programming there this afternoon, a number of persons with comments also. We're getting ready for the family side of it. As you remember, we're celebrating the Pancras Theodore, an 8-time Calypso monarch, someone who has shattered records here in St. Lucia. Only the Mighty Peppers come close to him as far as the number of monarch crown documentation, tracing the evolution, but also respect and due recognition to Pancras Theodore. The generations, in fact, maybe 2 generations don't know anything of the Mighty Terra. That in itself, the intrinsic value of this piece of research, but what it may trigger, be so seldom is someone in good health and in good stead able to be present when he's being celebrated. Some applause for Mighty Terra, please. Given the very difficult task of having a man very close to Pancras Theodore, Calyx George Sr., who always has so much to say, full of knowledge and perspective, to keep him to 2 minutes, he said, Junior? Let's see. Mighty Terra doesn't sound very confident. Calyx George Jr. doesn't seem very optimistic. But Calyx George Sr. is asked to pay tribute to someone who wants this way. No, this way. Yeah, sit here. Let me sit here.
I have, given Calyx George, Dean. I have Terry on the reverse.
Thank you. 5 minutes is not sufficient for me to deal with a family man. As far as Pancras Theodore is concerned, the Mighty Terra have go into the history of that, only to say that we lived in the same house for a long period of time, he being my friend from Vieux-Fort. So today, all what I want to do is to take off a few and look at certain little sociocultural elements that are of significance to St. Lucia. First of all, Mac is an exceptional individual. He having, of course, two birthdays, the 3rd and the 10th, which he celebrates because he wants to drink on both occasions. He is a very voracious individual. His mother says that his mother says that he was so greedy that she had to have 2 spoons to feed him when he was a baby. And she had to do it very fast because he would burst into a cry if there was a microsecond between putting the food in one's mouth. Okay? He was exceptional in the sense that coming from the South, for some reason or the other, he must have been a very bright boy, and his father sent him to have his primary school education from Vieux-Fort to Castries, and then he attended the Methodist school under teacher Alex and so on. And it is from there that he became more or less a Castries boy. He knew the whole of Castries to a T. From there, before that, he was also involved culturally in the Lawas Festival because his grandmother always took part in it, and he was what they call a soldat Lawas. From the Methodist school, we went to the SMC together, 1952, the same day. We went in the same day and left the same day. And of course, we had a hilarious time up there. And the formation of, in fact, I have this in my book on SMC, that SMC is really the home of Calypso, so to speak. Because when the art form started off, fellas like Cobra and Scrub and those guys with the Belgrave guys were a lot of things. And in fact, when Blakes went inside, they said, time for him. But what happened is that he raised the standard immediately because Blakes was a brilliant student and he had a very, very strong liking for music from an early age and of course the English language and so on. So his compositions were far superior to those of the other guys. And that was a reflection of his education at St. Mary's, where he was, of course, brilliant, not only in English, but also in Latin. In fact, he's one of the few guys who has a distinction in Latin, which he did extraordinarily because of the fact you had to do only 8 subjects at a time, individual. He's very versatile, and that is reflected in the way in which he has crafted a lot of his calypsos, and I'll come to that a little later on. Of course, besides his versatility, tennis, whatever it is, he was an all-round man. Also in the cadets, and so he participated in every aspect of school life, and was fairly brilliant in fact. In fact, at one time, he was recognized as the fastest bowler in St. Lucia. And there's a story about him and Reese, but I won't go into there now, who was a Bajan fella, and I would come to Bajans in a while. He was also a very good actor and dramatist, and he participated in the Arts Guild, and in fact went down to Trinidad together with Derek and so on, but he will tell you the story of the flute, and how Derek had to curse him up and so on and that. But that's his poor. And in it, you had to bring in bananas for the individual, that was him. And Blakes was acting, and he says, give me a banana, and he passes on. And of course, knowing Blakes as we do, he continuously throughout the play called for a new banana. And so he virtually ate the whole bunch of bananas. His writing, of course, of calypsos began in school. You know, he was brilliant, and he used to just write those things in his exercise book and so on. I think there's a picture of the exercise book in the thing. But most of all, calypsos, you will find that he gives you a complete history of certain aspects of life in St. Lucia. One of them I would just point out to you and show you some of the sociocultural elements of it, is the question of Bajan. If you look in the book and you read, you must read the Calypsos on Bajans. And the attitude, it was dealing really with the attitude of Bajans to St. Lucia. And in fact, one of the features of this, which is of significance today, is that St. Lucians do not like policemen, because most of the policemen came from outside Bajans. That's why they refer to them as Bobe Waya Uye. And so you found very few St. Lucians going to the force and getting promoted. For example, only few fellas like the James from Morn and Pip's father, who became a sergeant, and Hippolyte by you there. So there's this antagonism of St. Lucians to Bajans, and that is why you do not find St. Lucians responding and giving information to policemen, to the police. So that is a sociocultural factor that arises from that relationship with the Bajans. What made it worse was that when the Queen came down here, there was a float or something, and it was floating down. There was a mishap or something, and the thing almost collapsed. And the advocate hit up St. Lucia, and Blix got vexed about it, and Vic started to write some calypsos.
Was it the Bandi Advocate?
The Bandi Advocate, yes. That was one of it. But there were others. In fact, there's a one called Too Many Bajans in the Country. And then he goes into the details of it. I can quote some of the things from you, but I'm just drawing it to your attention so that you could check on it. Too much Bajans, right. That was page 84 and 85. Page 84. Yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah, no, that's not it. Oh, yes. The chorus, his chorus goes like that. Man, they can thief like rats, they can jump like cats, but when they tell you run, don't bother yourself. But when they tell you stand, better run like hell. That was the attitude, you know, that and several other things like that. Yeah, Blix also was a federalist. He believed in the West Indies Federation and was very saddened when this broke out. And there are lots of calypsos in there which you need to look at to see the trends that occurred at the time. And one of them, which is very, very important, is the one I don't want to, I could give you the thing, but the one on the Syrian community. And if you look at the words of that, where he describes the guy coming in with a little grip, what we used to call the amigo, and taking over the country and describing St. Lucia as the paradise of the Syrians. So he was a visionary, in a sense, pointing out the evolution, what would eventually happen to the Syrians coming in into St. Lucia. So his visionary aspect of his calypsos is actually come to play, right? In modern times. Then he has comments on the politics of St. Lucia, and you will see that he talks about the PPP and the Labour Party and so on, and gives you
what I think is that we've got an appreciation of the broad areas. I think the point being made that the Calypsos were not just written gratuitously, they always reflected what happened in society, be that, as you said, the Bajan, social interaction, the politics. So that was the general point. Even after you've wrapped up, we'll allow you.
Just give me a chance. I want to bring in something about the politics. And it ends up with the thing which I'll just read to you. It says, I must congratulate the whole Labour Party for establishing this glorious and outright victory. All my sympathy to the PPP. Don't let this victory spoil your morality. For the people, don't care what's your sort, give the government your full support. Forget differences and what party you are. Ladies and gentlemen, this is only to bring about the advancement of St. Lucia. In other words, what is happening now is exactly what referred to in VIX. So, since you're putting me under pressure and you don't want to hear me anymore, I want to thank Mbut for attempting to do that. But before I do that, on the whole issue of the Bajans, I wanted to indicate to you that it is a living thing about the Bajans, because I have a list here of all the Bajan names that you have in St. Lucia, like the Maxwells and the Brantfords and the Maycocks and the Goodriches and the Collymores, etc. There are more Bajan people of Bajan origin than actual St. Lucians in St. Lucia. So thank you very much for those few words. And I just wanted to draw out some of the socio-cultural elements of Blix's work. Thank you very much.
Hold on one second, Carl. I think the producers on Mbut wanted one photo. You probably won't be there again. At this table, that's the center of the ceremony. Blix, if you come a while, just to get a photo from your screen, Charlie. A photo next to Calyx at that table. Just the two of you. Let me just come in. That's right, let me come in. Yeah.
When we talk about the Wabin government.
The Wabin government?
He has a fixation for Wabins. And when you look at the Calypsos he's written, you'll see he even had a Wabin government.
Calyx, fix your mask.
Huh?
Fix your mask. Let's put it on. Yeah. That's okay, Isabel? You want one without the mask quickly?
Take out your mask.
Take off the mask for a few seconds. Take it off. Take it off. You want to see the real mask now?
There's some music in the background, man, so the faces would dance.
I see the band, the advocate.
Yeah. You good? That's not the program.
No.
Oh, before I leave though, I want to make, you have to make a correction in the, the mighty Pep who tied with Terra. He didn't tie with Terra. Terra's record is 8 consecutive wins of the title. Pep might have got it 8 times, but broken off. Terra consecutively. All right? That must be made. And the other one that I wanted to add on, since he just died, is Arthur Jacob, who was known as the Fighting Bob Jakes. And in fact, I'm reminded by his sister in Canada that a friend of mine called Francis Leonce's wife always refers to him as his Calypso name, Bob Jakes.
Thanks for that. Applause again for Calypso. I think one interesting factor is we had quite realized the number of names of Asian origin maybe
Calypso shares a little later. They refer to about 60-something names that are used regularly, all of Haitian origin, that we take them for granted. We want to move on to the ceremony, and the family is still there. A number of the family members,
the offspring and so of Blake's mighty Terra, are in fact resident overseas. We'll turn now to our screen as they pay tribute to their dad and family member, McGriffin Theodore.
But I am so happy that all of St. Lucia and the rest of the world can now see what a phenomenal cultural icon you are
Félicitations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations on your book launch, Dad. Hopefully we can...
Congratulations, Daddy, on the release of The Reign of Terra. I am so happy and so proud that your contribution to Calypso music, to the Calypso movement in St. Lucia and in Canada, is going to be memorialized in this book, as it should. I can't wait to get my physical copy in my hands. I can't wait to read it to Ariana, and we all can't wait to celebrate with you in person sometime very soon. Congratulations, and we love you.
To my brother Mac, congratulations. I wish I could have been there today in St. Lucia to experience this firsthand. However, I am grateful for the technology that brings me a little closer to celebrate in this auspicious occasion. Being the youngest and having grown up in Curacao, it was not until Dad retired to St. Lucia in the early 70s that I began to hear my brother being referred to as Mighty Terra, and the name was associated with Calypso. By that time, however, Mac had already migrated to Canada, and I did not have that opportunity to speak to him directly about his days of growing up in St. Lucia. Thanks to the work done by the Folk Research Center as part of the 2017 St. Cecilia's Day celebration, 3 St. Lucian Calypsonians were featured, one of which was Brother Mac, an 8-time Calypso king. These Calypsonians had all made their respective contributions, as was quite often the case, and used their platform and lyrics to bring to fore issues of the day. As it turns out, that was just a dry run for what would lead up to this translating into a book. On behalf of all my siblings, I am grateful to Ember Charles, who worked tirelessly and helped unpack so much of our cultural history, and everyone else who contributed to inform future generations and add to St. Lucia's cultural archives. Even more important, I am grateful that Mark is here today and able to witness this event for himself. I look forward to reading about my brother Mark. Thank you so much.
I just want to say congratulations. Yay, the book launch is finally here. So proud of you, Dad. You know, I wish I could be there in St. Lucia to celebrate to St. Lucia. Love you, Dad. Congratulations.
I want you to sing along with my chorus. Dear Mom, I'm in a crucial situation. I am held here in detention by the Calypso Association. But it's true, let me explain the happenings to you from a Calypso point of view. It was your car who led me to this mess, brought me to serve as a witness in 1986. Mommy, when I took this stand and I testified that Africa don't need apartheid, I was made a convict. Yes, Mom, oh Mom, I'm messing up and I'll be so severe. for penalties. Heaven and hell, yeah, you say I fail. They from and grant me bail, but let me out of Calypso jail. And for the coming trial, pray me. Demanded hearing constantly, and to be proven guilty. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for that tribute. As we move on and make the point again, Ember Charles.
Sorry, how you doing at the back there? You feeling all right? Yeah.
For Ember Charles to honor people and the government and the system. Ember Charles, with his association with FRC, saw it fit and fitting to honor Blakes and went ahead to do it. Many of us must do the same, and indeed he is. This is so rare in St. Lucia, proper tribute to someone wildly able-bodied, alive and healthy.
Thank you very much, Terry. I was just signaling to get my hat because Blakes and I agreed to wear hats tonight. So we're on the table.
Very good.
But it's very, very nice to see you here. Especially, I'm quite happy the way the seating was organized with the seniors in front.
And the not-so-seniors in the middle row, and the very not-so-seniors in the back. So some people didn't want to sit in the front row because they didn't think they were the same age with Calyx and the rest. But I won't say, I mean, Calyx let a lot out of the bag, and because Calyx was one of the first Calyx judge, senior that is, we have two of them here. Yeah. Calyx was one of the first persons I got the book to as soon as it was out of the press. Because having worked on a book himself, you would appreciate the labor and you'd appreciate the anxiety of getting it out. But for me, there were two different challenges. One is that as a member of the Folk Research Center, we try to honor our heroes while they're alive. And for the last year, we missed two of them. The last 2 years actually. Mighty, who was a Calypsonian, and Joyce Elise. And I was very anxious that when I started doing this project with Blakes, we sat down by Castro's one afternoon doing an interview on a motorcycle passing up and down. By the time I went to pick up that tape recorder, I couldn't even hear what the man said. So we had to do the interview over again. But you have to do it in a setting that makes the individual comfortable, not that Blakes is only comfortable in a rum shop. He used to be, but he's also comfortable at other places. Don't know that this date is correct. I mean, luckily he had people around him, like his own family, who were able to check these dates with me, and he took me through all his records in his house. There were some friends of his overseas that I was able to speak to get some of the information and double-check the information. But the anxiety was to do it while Blakes was alive. And the first plan was to launch the book when he was 80, this pass. 81 passed. I say 82 are passing on me. It has to be done. Not that it wasn't finished, but we reached a point where I think it was at a stage where it had sufficient value to be published. And that it could be something that we could use as a reference going forward. For those of us in the audience who want to write, like Calyx would tell you, go ahead and write. It's a signal of the maturing of our society when people begin to tell their own stories, that we stop relying on other people around the world to tell our stories for us. Because there's a different set of nuances when you tell your own stories. Because you feel the story yourself. And you have to do it as quickly but as best as you can. The more we speak a lot, but we don't write, which is so strange about our societies. And I think it's important, especially for the number of Calypsonians we have, and I've spoken to a few of them about, triggering a process to write their stories, to get people to help them. Don't think when you share information, it is lost. It is just multiplied. It's just being shared. Sometimes we're very hesitant about letting out information about ourselves, about our history, and so forth. You will regret it if you had the opportunity to do it, and you didn't do it, and something happens to you or to the person who wanted to do it for you. So I'm encouraging people to do that. There was a lot that came out of doing that project. I mean, I learned quite a lot, even though I've been doing research on Calypso for how many years with Lucian Kaiso published by the Folk Research Center. But anytime you do something, try to do it to the best of your ability at the time you do it. Even if it's simple like just doing a 2-page biography of someone, just get the facts right. Because when you have to go back to it, if you don't get it right the first time, be lots of problems. Because the people who are around you to verify may not even be there. Get your dates right. I remember the story about the 2 birthdays. I say, Blix, you sure you have 2 birthdays? He said, yeah, but I mean, I do understand you. My mother told me I was born on this date, and when we went, it was a different story. I said, well, both dates going in the book. He said, yeah, put it there, put it there. Calypso had another story about he wanted to drink multiple times, but he didn't share that with me, Calypso. Unfortunately for Blix as well, he spent maybe not unfortunately, but he spent quite of his time outside of St. Lucia soon after he won the crown multiple times. And while Calypso was speaking, I remember a joke that Crow gave. He has these tongue twisters that he's the 4th king. You know, he won the crown 4 times.
Yeah.
Now, how you say about the 8th king? Yeah. It's a different altogether. But it's instructive that Calypso made that point that it's consecutive. And then Blix left soon after he lost the crown the 2nd time. He didn't just walk away when he was beaten by Zando amidst all the controversy, but he had to leave because his family had moved over. He was following his heart, went to Canada, made his life there, came back. And perhaps at that time, too much engaged in family life to get back into Calypso. But he always maintained an interest. He was honored by, I think, the Calypso Association in the Hall of Fame, I think, in 2000. And as I said, he always, when we spoke, he always said, boy, I like this fella, you know, I always follow Pep. And on the night Pep equaled his number, he was there rooting for Pep as well. So he was always actively engaged. But strangely enough, there was this hero of ours that very few Calypsonians knew about. Not just people, Calypsonians. So it just shows you people come into the art form, maybe just for a transaction of going on stage 1 year or 1 night, and then next thing you don't see them again. So it's no surprise at the end of the book, you would see a list of people who have crossed the stage since Blix. And I know St. Lucia is unique in that regard, but Teddy, we have probably over 300 people who call themselves Calypsonians, who have crossed the stage from 1956 until now, and I'm sure I missed at least 50 of them. So there is a lot of information, you know, and I would like as many people as possible to buy the book. The receipts go straight to the Folk Research Center, so we continue doing the work on Calypso. So again, thank you very much, and I won't tell you more about the book, but to buy it and to read it. And at this point in time...
Just, in a bit.
Yeah.
What tends to align to is really a remarkable piece of a set of data and research, makes it even more valuable as a research document to go through. It's an aspect we've almost never documented, and for that alone, but even before you get to the Terra story, the work is very commendable and certainly fills a void. We want to make the point too, as you said, this ever greater part, apart from Blake's and a few others, the comedic value of Calypso. A number of the characters that were seen as more comedians and a laughing stock to a large, that was part of the attraction to yes, but Ashanti, when the Rastafarians who would have scorned Calypso, would have scoffed at the idea of Calypso in their reggae consciousness, went through the works of Jati and Suku, when they were drawn to the arena in the early 80s, that was a big revolution where the inner city, people by the hundreds flocked to the venues, a new respect with writers like Jati and Suku, but also leaders get through Ashanti, known Rastafarians that opened the floodgates for Black Eye and really transformed Calypso. Further, as I always say, you had the Castries Saga Boy, Invader, Abu, Ignatius, coming through. That was an important signal because the Castries Sweet Boy didn't come near Calypso. So Invaders advent and foray into Calypso was very significant. And he got a large
brought the
following.
following with him, yeah.
Added with the if you knew it was there. That followed quickly with the likes of Damian Greaves, Pep, as university graduates coming fully involved in Calypso. That brought new respect. And so that combination, by the mid to late 80s, Calypso is really gone. And hence the evolution from finals being held at the Clark Cinema. Remember that the finals were held at the Clark Cinema in the late 70s, Prince and Paley, to 1983 was the big jump when it moved from Clark's to the Mindofella Park. That big jump?
Yeah.
Mindofella Park, the biggest jump. I want to take the license as MC. These moments are precious. Before we go on to the presentation of books, Ignatius Tyson, as is his one, you the two of them take it first here. Come here, Papa. Florida's boy. Yeah. Just face. Lose the mask, eh? Wait for a minute. Just lose the mask for 1 minute. Take off the mask. Take off the mask. Pep there? Yeah, Pep come. So we have, oh, that's golden. But you copy for that boy, yeah? Put Blix in the middle, right? In the middle? Yeah. Blix, come here.
Just leave Blix there.
No, I make photographs of the more central there. Yeah, no, man, more central there. Yeah. Come. Yeah.
Okay.
You want it on the table? Thanks again, Invader, Terra, and Pep. Applause again, please, as we show respect to our living icons. We must thank the mighty Pep. I've told you about 42 people outside his doctor's office that he left to be here. We appreciate that, Pep. The long line outside your office waiting for your attention. So we go into presentations now. Kentilia Louis will be has been asked to assist in the presentations.
Yeah.
We'd first ask Roger Joseph, representing Looselec, to come forward for receipt of his copy. Thanks again, Roger, for your support consistent with the arts and worthwhile ventures. We're asking Robert Favre from First National Bank to come forward. Roger, do you need the So the mighty Pep for his copy. Desmond Long. We have two other people, but we want now to call Ignatius Thyssen, the invader, for his official copy.
I want to be honest. You gave me a copy already. I know.
The photo up.
Photo up.
Yeah. And a presentation to Jean Morrell, who's been the administrative giant behind the project. The formal presentation. The signings will be afterwards, the official signing by the mighty Terra. We do have two major performances left, but we want now to hear at this point the man himself. There. An omission, the Cultural Development Foundation is to be presented. As we say in Calypso Pekong, Ramona didn't wear her outfit for nothing. So, Ramona Win from the CDF. Applause, please. Yeah. We are reminded of the time of the squeeze with the schedules, so we're asking at this point to welcome, please, with applause, the man who sought to rival the mighty Terra in the number of Calypso titles. Let's welcome Desmond Long, the mighty Pep.
One, two. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to be in this gathering here this evening, you know. What I want to do is a number that I probably have not sung very often. I can't remember the last time I sang this song, but I think it was in 1990 we presented that song. It's a song which dealt with the drug situation in the country. And of course, that year, I think Ashanti beat me to it with growing population. So I would like to just present this one, since it's a song that's hardly ever been sung. a drug baron laid in bed, deeply wounded, almost dead. And he called his only son for one final conversation. He said, son, before I go, there is something you should know. Let me tell you about my life. Oh, it's a horror story. Then you will see if you should be like me. It will be torment and misery. Please hear me. Every link on my gold chain sent a young man down the drain, a victim of my cocaine on his brains. Believe me, you think I'm a success, but I feel so heartless. My whole life is haunted by the living dead. My son have brought so much grief, brought anguish and misery to, oh, to many young men like you. Look at me and don't be impressed. I confess I'm a brutal baron of death. In the back streets of the slums, deep in poverty and crumbs, in this wretched place I was born. This is where it all begun. I sold my powder in large drums, sold to whosoever comes. Destroying families and lives. Oh, with this wretched poison, young brains would crack. My purse got fat. In fact, I lived like a parasite on their backs. Please hear me. Every link on my gold chain sent a young man down the drain, a victim of my cocaine on his brains. Believe me, you think I'm a success, but I feel so heartless. My whole life is haunted by the living dead. My son have brought so much grief, brought anguish and misery to, oh, to many young men like you. Look at me and don't be impressed. I confess I'm a brutal baron of death. Dim, oh, eh. So I live just like a king. Every luxury, everything. The biggest house, expensive cars. Buying friends and bodyguards. Some say I'm worth my weight in gold. Some say my fortunes can be told. My victims crawled while I flew high. Oh, but son, please believe me, no cash, no gold in this whole world can come near the value of a father's son. Please hear me. Every link on my gold chain sent a young man down the drain, a victim of my cocaine on his brains. Believe me, you think I'm a success, but I feel so heartless. My whole life is haunted by the living dead. My son have brought so much grief, brought anguish and misery too. Oh, too many young men like you. Look at me and don't be impressed. I confess, I'm a brutal baron of death. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the listening audience. Brother Terra, nice to be there, man.
Thank you again, Mighty Pep. Just 1 second, you give a mic. So you silenced the critics who claim that you couldn't remember your lyrics, right?
Actually not.
How much did you rehearse that one?
Actually, I didn't, you know. I'd planned to do another one, but I couldn't get the backing tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went through what I had, and I saw this one. I said, Father to Son, because we sang that, Father to Son and Broken Homes.
At the same time, I remember Broken Homes.
I couldn't get the Broken Homes tape.
Yeah.
So I decided to just do that one. So I didn't get a chance to really rehearse it.
Yeah. Your quick thoughts and comments on Terra and how he's inspired you, how much you looked at his achievement as you built your career?
Well, when I first heard about Terra, that was sometime in the 90s. I didn't know much about the Calypso at that time. And I remember somebody telling me that there was a gentleman way back here, sometime in the 60s or somewhere, who had won about 8 titles. Some said 10,
right?
But no one was sure. And I never believed it, because I didn't figure that at that time, Calypso was, the way it was as now. And I was saying for a gentleman to win 8 crowns must have been a great feat at that time, And then I got to learn about him. And it was an inspiration to me, because the way in the Calypso world, if you look at the kings we've had in recent times, it is quite a difficult feat to win 8 monarchs. It was extremely difficult for me, despite having a number of second places, which I had about 15 first runner-ups. Imagine that, 15 times I was first runner-up and 8 times monarch. So it was never really an easy feat for me. And so I was always striving to see whether I can do better than Terra. To be honest, I was looking to go on. And so it has been an inspiration to me to keep going and moving on, And I remember the last event we did at the Folk Research Center, when I met him in person for the first time. It was a wonderful, wonderful feeling to meet the giant, the true giant.
So officially from you, you're continuing?
Well, I plan to pack it up, But I have to wait and see what that COVID is doing.
Before, right.
Yeah, I don't want, we have to see what happens next year.
Right.
If I decide to just finally, perform and then bow out.
By the way, we have the longest reading ever Calypso king. Caro is the reading king for 3 years now.
3 years now. Yes.
All right, thanks, Pep.
Okay then.
Applause again. Thank you, Pep. We do have an indication that we're expecting a few words from 2 of the sponsors. We're expecting a few words from Roger Joseph quickly, and also Marcia Symphorian on their association with the project. Roger and then Marcia, as the producers have required.
The similarities with Calypso show continue. I've been up here so many times, I feel like I've been...
Encore, yeah.
The only thing, though, is that we have a tendency to encore for 2 reasons. For the quality of what you sang, or for comedic value. So I'm not sure where I stand at the moment. But I want to say that there are lots of reasons why Lucelec supported this publication, and others have spoken about the value of documentation. I will touch quickly, as quickly as I can, on 3 of the reasons why we opted to support this publication. And the first one is the title. you hear the title Reign of Terror. It's an instant classic. And I was quite taken with the title when I saw the proposal from Emvert. When you hear it and you read it, it seems unavoidable, almost it writes itself. But somebody had to put it down. There's also obviously, the author, Emvert Charles, and his long history of research and documentation of Calypso and the art forms and arts generally, both from his own personal interest in that type of work and on behalf of the Folk Research Center. This type of work is extremely important. I have known Mr. Theodore as Mr. Theodore for a little while, and it wasn't until today that I've made the link with the Mr. Theodore I know and the mighty Terra. And so it's just one of those reasons why documentation of our history, our heroes, our culture is important, because for those who are coming behind, it's important to be able to make these associations with the people that we see and that we know on a regular basis who have made contributions or have a history or have a story that we don't know. And as Bert quite eloquently put it, it's a sign of the maturity of our society when we begin to tell our own stories and not wait for others to tell them on our behalf. The second reason is foundations. Foundations are important to Lusilek. This book, this publication, highlights the contribution of the mighty Terra to the Calypso art form in those early years. And often we can fall into the trap of recency bias. We focus on what we know in the present. They tend to forget what has happened in the past. And even when we think about the past, we tend to make comparisons with, what's happening now versus what happened in the past. And it either gives us cause to appreciate the present or the past, or lament, depending on your perspective. Those of us who have followed, the transformation of the West Indies cricket team to the Windies, who doesn't seem to win, will understand that, based on where you are in history, what you remember and what you appreciate changes over time. In many ways, the present would not be possible without the contributions of those like the mighty Terra who has gone before. The foundations are important to Lusilek. We remember those whose contributions in the past have laid the foundations for where we are as a company today. The company enjoys a fairly good reputation, deservedly so, I might add. But there was a time when we were not as good as we are today. And as a company, we have always made a point of honoring our retirees, those people who struggled in the early days to build the foundation on which we stand today. And so foundations are important to Lusilek, and we recognize that this book, which sought to capture those early foundations of the Calypso years and the contribution that a pioneer and champion like the mighty Terra has made, is important. And it was an honor for us to be able to capture that contribution and to honor the man and the legend while he was still alive. Finally, and more generally, and perhaps most lamentable, is, excuse me, we recognize, that's Lucelec, that there is a challenge that the arts and creative industries have, especially with adequate funding, and particularly for literary works. Creativity or creative talent is, in our view, a great leveler. It's one of those things that you can't buy. There are no geographic restrictions, there are no social or economic criteria to be met. Creativity is a gift that the Almighty God bestows upon whomsoever he chooses. And often, what determines how creativity is nurtured and developed, exercised, and ultimately produce economic benefits that one can derive from the gift is the opportunity. And often opportunity requires support. Support, whether in terms of resources, as in funding, equipment, spaces for creativity to abound, training, and sometimes a bit of luck. And where we can, as a company, we seek to support opportunities for creativity, for talent to be expressed, exposed, and encouraged. Lucelec believes that the creative industries has the potential to make significant contributions to us, to who we are as a people, and to economic opportunities that are available to our people. And understanding the challenges, usually with funding, this area remains an important component of the way we contribute to the communities that we serve. That's the spirit in which we have supported this publication, to ensure that we can remember and honor the foundations on which we build, and to provide opportunities for those who need a boost from time to time to realize their full potential. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Lucelec to congratulate the mighty Terra for his achievements over time, and to congratulate Bert and the Folk Research Center for the tremendous work that they have done in ensuring that that contribution is not lost upon the rest of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger Joseph. Thank you. And now we'll have brief remarks from Marcia Symphorian from UNESCO.
Thank you very much. The St. Lucia National Commission for UNESCO is indeed honored to be a part of this ceremony, to launch a publication which celebrates the life and legacy of a stalwart of Calypso in St. Lucia, and which also highlights the importance of the art form and its contribution to the development of St. Lucia's cultural landscape. We were very pleased to have been called upon by the FRC to contribute to this important initiative. For those of you who are familiar with UNESCO's work in the field of culture, the organization is committed to assisting member states in building capacity within the culture sector for the protection of cultural heritage in all of its forms. In that regard, the organization encourages member states to implement its various culture conventions. These instruments provide a framework and guidelines to assist member states in safeguarding and promoting cultural heritage. And in addition, the conventions facilitate access to funding for action in support of heritage protection and promotion. St. Lucia is a party to several of UNESCO's culture conventions, most notably the Convention for the Expression of Cultural Diversity and the Intangible Cultural Convention. And as signatories to those conventions, St. Lucia has benefited from UNESCO's support for a number of initiatives over the years, including the development of our national cultural policy, Masquerade, Still Pan, the mapping of our cultural industries, etc. And so now we can add to this list of activities that we've supported the development of the Calypso art form. You may recall that last year we also supported the art form through the Resiliat project when we funded the hosting of a virtual Calypso show. Many of these initiatives are funded under what we call the IFCD, International Fund for Cultural Diversity, or our participation program, which is more popularly known. However, in respect of the intangible cultural heritage, which is what is at honor here today, UNESCO provides support through the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund. This fund remains largely untapped, and I want to use this occasion to encourage our cultural institutions, and in the FRC in particular, to mobilize the resources that are available under this fund, to put together proposals which will allow for the documentation, allow for the transmission, capacity building of our cultural art forms, and allow us to continue to work together to advance St. Lucia's cultural heritage. I want to advocate also for greater implementation of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention. We want to encourage proposals that recognize the value of our ICH as the cornerstone of our identity as a people, and as well the contribution that the ICH makes to the social and economic development of St. Lucians. We continue to advocate for programs that gets towards the establishment of our local register of intangible cultural heritage. We want to encourage capacity building and transmission of the cultural forms to our younger generation, and the sharing of this rich cultural heritage with the rest of the world. And it is in that regard that the National Commission is extremely pleased to have collaborated with FRC on this initiative. We want to congratulate the FRC. We want to congratulate Mr. Imber Charles for this wonderful initiative. And we also want to pledge our continued support for the continued growth of the cultural art form. We want to encourage you to work with us through the ICH Fund to continue to document the development of the Calypso art form in St. Lucia, and to encourage greater participation of the youth in the art form. Congratulations, and thank you very much for being part of this activity.
Thank you, Marcia. Well said. And we move, after these words from Marcia Sinforian, towards perhaps the highlight with the man of the hour, our honoree, with Mr. Theodore Blakes, the mighty Terra, coming forward to, in fact, share some words with us. First, we'll have the presentation of the hard copy of the book from Imber Charles, the author, to McGriffin Theodore, and then we'll share a few words. I want you to take pleasure before you come up here that you, in fact, brought your virtual nephew first time in a Calypso tent in the bleachers. How does it feel, Calix? How does it feel?
Last day he said, this is a hard copy just to check. Very hard copy. And basically it's just to thank Terra for inspiring all of us, those who write and those who sing. His story, as Calypso was saying, has several components, and it has a lot that we can learn from, but also has a lot that Calypsonians could sing about. So I want to present this to you, Uncle.
Thank you very much.
I've learned that lots of people call him Uncle. Several names: Blakes, Terra, Mark, lot of them. Even from the days of college, you have other names as well, but I won't mention. Macaru! That's what I said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks. The applause, please, as we end this. Wait. Right here. Yeah. Right here. Yeah.
yes, Blake C, as they say. Calix George Sr. would agree that we must do this and remember who? Klebe, Fanwa, Fonty, Frank, who else, Calix Sr.? The group Sikra, Antonia Sikra Gibson is very central to
Old Sikri.
Old Siki. The milieu, the social milieu, and indeed cultural. Where was the old Turk Spaniard? Where of Grass Street and where? Coral Street? Grass Street and Coral Street? Yeah.
Grass and Coral.
Sikra's old property was very much the genesis of a lot of that movement.
Oh, yes.
The genesis of that movement. So, right. So we go forward now and to speak of first if Terra, the Calypso, as you mentioned, your memories, your greatest memories, college boy going into the tent. What was the big challenge for you going then and/or inspiration?
Well, the biggest challenge was getting permission from the brothers to go and sing, which I didn't get. So I went anyway. Oh, take it up. Yes, like I was saying, the biggest challenge was getting permission from the brothers to go and sing Calypso. Because remember, we're talking in what year? 63, 64?
Before that,
56, sorry, 56. Yeah, 56.
You were born?
You know. But I went to sing, I didn't get permission, but I went and sang anyway. And I won the competition. And when I came to school the following day, I still got a caning. but I was satisfied that I had won.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of what we traced there, that Calypso is virtually taboo in that era,
mean,
Calypso,
you know,
and really the underclass and really frowned upon at that time when you came through. How important it is for you, Blakes, to the aspect of you being a Calypsonian, being, according to Paley and a few other exponents, a true Calypsonian, being a performer, but also writing your own material? How important is that?
I have one thing I have to say. Every song that I've sung, I've written myself. I've written songs for the guys who used to compete against me, you know, because some of them had good ideas. I would take it and write the song for them and get them to sing, you know, and because they used to come to me, a lot of them, like Toto, I saw Toto just the other day, and you know, and you could ask
Toto,
him, but
yeah, Toto is killer. Zex?
Yeah, killer, Zex. Yeah. You know, he told Bert that I used to help him write songs, you know, because in those days it was really more fun, you know.
Right.
We went to sing because we loved the art form, we loved to sing. You know, we loved the Calypso. It isn't like there was no money in there to, you know.
What is your prize? What are your prizes like?
The prize money when I won the crown was $15, 1.5. But we had a hell of a time that night, man. $15 in those days could buy a lot of rum, you know. No, serious, we had a great time with the $15, man. Good time, man.
Yeah. And interesting, the kind of social dynamics. You mentioned you, Paley, and Zandoli were for the same kind of stratum, but you kept, despite being rivals, you remained friends.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. And there's also the aspect, Calix George Sr. saying, as a college boy, middle class coming in there, the guys were largely, mostly on average, the stevedores and guys around town.
The fellas, because when I came in there, no, this person like this thing at all, you know.
College
it's
boy.
A college boy having this here, college music having that, you know. But then, when they realized I was there, and I was really helping them, you know, they started
welcoming you,
and anything questions they had, if they had a line in a song and they wanted to get a rhyme, they would come to me. I would still help. I would help all of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We know we pressed for time, but tell us your feeling now, being honored at the end of the long career. For a long time, most of the country didn't know about you, this effort now. How does it feel on a day like today?
Yeah. When Embert came to tell me that, I say, boy, I think, although it's me, but I think it's really good that we've seen something being done to recognize Calypso for what it was in St. Lucia. And I still, what I'm hoping is that Embert will continue and, you know,
do some other works.
One of my favorite Calypsonians, Pep, I hope Embert, this is the next person you'll go to and give the story of Pep as a Calypsonian.
Okay.
Any final words?
And, of course, my partner here.
Invader. Yeah.
My two favorite Calypsonians, and look at them, their head tonight.
Yeah.
You know, Pep and Vader.
Yeah. Both final words before you wrap? Yeah.
Well, I think I just want to say thanks to everybody who made Terra who he is, including some of his friends who are here tonight, and for his continued contribution to our documentation of Calypso by agreeing to tell his story. There are lots of fragments of the story which at some point in time we'll get to, but I hope this is an inspiration for others to also write their stories. As I said earlier, I've been talking to others to do the same, and we don't want to wait until another 2 or 3 years for something to come out.
Yeah. Final words, Blix?
Well, I'm happy to see everybody here tonight, and tell you the truth, the words can't describe the way I feel. I'm really happy and proud of what is happening here tonight, and I want to thank everybody for coming.
Thank you. And that was our pleasure. Thank you as we welcome our performer, our featured performer tonight, Ignatius Thyssen this evening, Ignatius Thyssen the Invader, to do the honors to have the final performance in this tribute to the mighty Terra. Ignatius Thyssen the Invader.
Yeah, man. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to let all you know it's a real pleasure to be here tonight. I mean, we're honoring a great man. When Terra started to sing in '56, I was born 1 year before that. I got to know Terra in the '90s. I tried my best to get Terra to come to perform in the tent, but he told me his stage days were over. So I'm really, happy about the fact. I mean, Terra is one of the lucky ones to be here tonight to be able to accept this honor. So, Kingman, the pleasure is all mine. I want to do this song for you. Yeah, man. What am I saying? They plan a King of Kings competition. They say I want too much cause of presentation. They doubt my lyrical ability. Some say I write me songs too simply, which only go to prove to me that you can't please everybody. The things you plan to do should please no one but you. Cause one thing about Lucian, once they spot progression, they bombard you with opposition. So just as I am, I come, this time with no damn presentation. So just as I am, I come with sweet music and lyrical rendition. Come, selector. Boom! Teddy Francis is watching me. Hey! Now the next verse is about the plight of many Calypsonians in the world who look to Trinidad as the motherland of Calypso. But it's a big mistake that. Tell you about it. I went Trinidad to a competition. I didn't get too far, this I have to mention, because of my lack of experience. That's why I did not stand a chance. Hear that? But was Paro who said to me, Veda, don't mind nobody. To be a good Calypsonian, you must expect to get fight down. Which is then I realized I don't have to compromise. That's when I come and I win it. So just as I am, I come. This time with no damn presentation. So just as I am, I come with sweet music and lyrical rendition. Come, selector. Look at Papa now. They don't like that. They don't like that. That's what I am, Kaiso. Kaisonian, that's what they call me, man. Now, Mr. George, you could attest to this next verse here. You could attest to that. This little society we're living in is filled with hatred, jealousy, and sin. But instead of trying to make it better, we stand aside by talking one another. Where's the story now? But while Lucian backbiting Lucian, foreigners taking over we island, yet we so blind we cannot see. We must appreciate things that belong to we. To be a just society is what we must strive to be, and stop this fight on nonsense entirely. So just as I am, this time with no damn presentation. So just as I am, I come with sweet music. Yeah, man. Rendition. Now you know the COVID really put a damper on things for the Calypso. And the Calypsonians, I think we are one of the sector that has really suffered the most in that for the past year and a half. We haven't been able to earn any money. But we're holding strong and we keep creating. So my next selection is going out to all the many Calypso fans out there who haven't got the chance to come and sit in a Kaiso tent, or come to a finals, or go to a soca monarch, or to a boat ride, and do a party and thing. So my next selection is going out to them. Maybe some of you in here might fall in that bracket. Yeah? Come one time, short man. You know we have much time. If you want to stand up, I see Max. I know you're a dancer, you know, Max. Don't play. I know you're going to move. Come! We call this one Hold Me Tight. It's about a gentleman talking to his woman after leaving she in the house for so long, asking Sheila we go out tonight. Headman approach her. Yeah. It's been a long time we haven't been to party. So come on, baby, go dress up yourself pretty. Every night is only television. Let's go out tonight to relieve some tension. Tonight we going to party down. Tonight we marching down the town. Hey man, come baby, soca with me. Come hold me tight. Make me feel happy, happy, happy. Oh baby, soca with me. Come hold me tight. Melt in me belly. Belly, Mr. George. Melt in me belly. Come hold me tight. Make me feel happy, 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 happy. Oh baby, soca with me. Come hold me tight. Melt in me belly. Boom! There we go. I know it's a long time you haven't been to a party. I know you're waiting for that. But you know what the secret is? We had to get vaccinated. Herd immunity. That should be our goal. Head up. Sometimes it does cause me to wonder if absence really make the heart grow fonder. And all I really want to do is to prove to you my love is true. So tonight we going out with one plan. Tonight you going out with your man. Hold your man now. Come baby, soca with me. Come hold me tight. Make me feel happy, 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 happy. Oh baby, soca with me. Come hold me tight, melt in my belly. Come baby, soca with me. I just wanted to do this here tonight for my man, the Terra. And I want to let you know, thank you so much for your contribution, for paving the way for Calypso in St. Lucia. I know it's getting late, don't want to take too much of your time. So until we meet again, this is the Papa. Peace, love, Kaiso. Big up time.
Thank you, Invader. Thank you, Invader. Some applause again, please. As I say, we just want to appreciate, I can't help stressing again, these icons that are alive and healthy among us. Invader and High School Evening, two of his greatest songs. By the way, Invader acknowledged me staring away there. That first song just so powerful, simple but powerful. And the second one of the most underrated calypsos in the entire Caribbean. There's a song that the Stallion has, The Black Man Come Out to Party. And I always say, Stallion from Trinidad and it got big, but I just find, as compositions, I always tell Invader, that song is, to me, even better than Stallion's Black Man. It says more or less the same thing, and a very underrated song. Thank you, Invader. Yeah. And so now, the vote of thanks. Ember Charles singing after his supper.
You could tell me outside if I read a speech.
You're singing after your supper, not for your supper. Yeah.
Get this up already. Well, I just want to say thank you to a few groups of people. I won't mention names individually, it might be a bit long, but people always say sometimes projects like this is a labor of love. I don't understand how labor and love come together. These things don't work, because the first person I want to thank is my wife, because if it's a labor of love, I have to share the love between the work and my wife. And sometimes, you know, these late nights trying to get things right, editing and co-editing, and Deborah is here tonight, and I want to thank her. I also want to thank the others who were part of the initial project. That's people like Boots, Kendall, Guy Ellis. Guy was very, very, very helpful in terms of pointing me to sources, of historical sources and so forth. As I told them, the story is told by me, and I take full responsibility for any errors that is in the story. There are some others who provided information, some in the Calypso fraternity, like Charlo Rachel, Cecil Charles, Lord Jackson, Jaco, Lorna Lubra also assisted, Tonton, Zex, alias the Mighty Killer, my friend from Canada, Gregory Regis, who used to sing under the name The Ragamuffin Man. Also, I want to thank, special thanks to Jean Moriel, who helped. When I saw all of these exercise books of Terra's handwriting, I couldn't understand a lot of it. And with her training, she was able to transcribe and put a lot of these things on paper. Also, I want to thank some of the technical people as well, most of whom are here tonight. Richmond Felix has been assisting a lot in terms of some photographs, doing the web stream tonight. Thanks to Calabash TV for the work in carrying this live. I also want to say thanks to the agencies and people who provided sponsorship and financial support. You know, First National, UNESCO, clap. St. Lucia Electricity Services, clap. They're clapping. CDF, clap. Joe Maxwell and J. Maxwell and Company, clap. Teddy Francis for doing the human service tonight, clap. The CDF staff, and particularly Drania Frederick and her team, clap. Our lightsman, clap. Papa Veda, clap, 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 clap. The Mighty Pep. And anybody I forgot, I'm very sorry, but you're in my heart. Clap. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Charles. Thanks. As we get to the end, I want to remind you that the books are in fact available. The custom, the expectation normally when you invite us to such functions is that you purchase or at least promise to purchase a book. So Mr. Dixon has been very unhappily
idle all evening. He's the treasurer. He's there with his float and all, waiting to be kept busy. So he would like to meet a few of you. The books are available otherwise at T&M Toy Stationery at Massey Plaza in New Dock Road, Viewfort, Glomart Stationery at Gablewood South in Latuni, Viewfort, and of course at the FRC right down the hill. And whenever you see Bert in town, to shout him. Want to acknowledge a few other persons of help. Welcome back, Isabel. I see Ian Sanchez, who's working
Isabel.
One of his works.
Isabel was the designer on the book.
Sanchez, Stan Bishop, Ever the Soldier, and everybody else. Present here, Mel Shaw and Company, the Soldiers. Miss George, we did see you dancing away. Invader, you got response there from that section.
Yeah.
Miss George in the back.
A lot.
So thank you. The price of the book is
$40 until the end of the launch.
Yeah, a reasonable price as you go through, and thanks everyone. Was an effort well worth supporting. Ember Charles and Drenia Frederick indicate that in the COVID style, they're the takeaway snacks on your way out, so to minimize the mingling. So if you are to share a few words before you leave here, please respect the distancing and the mask while we do so. And Mr. Dixon and the snack provider await you when you do decide to leave. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to Calabash TV and Richmond on the stream. Angus, good afternoon. Shotman. Well, Shotman got his shout out from Invader, so I didn't know, you know. Shotman, you know. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks the mighty Terra.
Because if to come to the show today is alone, now you have to go and pay. If you know you is a Malay way, say you come the Ashanti.
Hello, I want all you to say one thing for me, Piper. Don't study music here. Now, all you over there, I want you to say, my family, you say Malay way. Let me hear that. Is that on the other side? And there we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. They call him black. It's just because Shanti was poor and black. It was me to play to shock me and the back. What? But now it's on in some competition. I have to overstand that the judging man are not the tongue. But as I can do that, they try to fight I don't. But I don't see one come at the fourth because my Flurry.